Okay, this is functions chapter on in the book A10, and we'll go through it. So function is basically function of x is a statement that says that you do something to x. Okay, so in this case here, you multiply x by 3 and then you add 8. Okay, and so this is what we do, how we write a function. We don't write y equals this is a function of x. This letter could be any letter, and this is what we do. So an inverse function is if I perform the operation x, I put 6 in there and I get an answer. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 8 is 26. It's what function takes that number 26 back to 6. Okay, and the way we do it is by writing out as y equals 3x plus 8 to start off with, rearranging it to make y the subject, so it becomes x equals, and then we change around the parts. Okay, so here we take away 8 from both sides, divide by 3. Okay, and so that means my inverse function, which is written like this with a minus 1 up here, is x minus 8 over 3. Okay, we just swap this x and y around, so it becomes y equals, or f f to the minus 1, which is the inverse function. So if we look back here, and I said 6, 3 times 6 is 18, plus 8 is 26. If I put 26 in here, 26 take away 8 is 18, divided by 3 takes me back to 6. So f dash f to the minus 1 of 26. Doesn't matter what number. If I put 0 in there, it's 8. If I put 8 in here, 8 minus 8 divided by 3 is 0. Takes me back to 0. Okay. Okay, so these are questions. Have a go at them. Give them to me Wednesday or Friday. Doesn't really matter. There's enough questions in here and in the book to last you all week. Let's have a look at domains and ranges now. So a domain is all the values that I can put into this function, and the range are all the values that come out. So here I can put any value into x squared. It doesn't matter what I can have. Minus 3 squared is 9, 0 squared is 0, 1.5 squared is 2.25, etc, etc. And so the domain is written like this. This is with an R. I should have an extra line there. So this is x is in the set of all real numbers. Okay, is how you define if it can take the value of all real numbers. And the range, well, the range, x squared can't be less than 0 because it can't be negative. So we write our range as x has got to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, it can be equal to 0 because 0 times 0, but I can't make an x squared equals minus 3, for instance. Okay, so I can't make it negative. For here, I can't put a negative number into this function because this is square root, and I can't square root a negative number. And so my domain is x has got to be greater than or equal to 0, and the range is also going to be that, because we can only take the positive values as well, because we've put our domain as this value here, and so the range will only go from 0 up. Here, you won't get a question this difficult in the exam, but the domain here is x can't equal to 3, because 5 times 3 is 15, and 15 take away 15 is 0, and you can't divide by 0. Okay, it's undefined, and so the domain here is x is not equal to 3. Officially, you should write this for each value. X is in the here, and officially these shouldn't be x's. This should be f of x, the range f of x. Okay, here the range can't be 2/5. Okay, because you can't make this value to 2/5 because this is 2x, this is 5x. When x becomes very large, these don't really make a difference to the value of these numbers, and this divides by, and this would divide out x and x to be 2/5. But this is all slightly bigger and this is slightly less, and so you can't have the value there. You won't get anything like that for your domain and range. Again, right, so there's some questions. I think these questions are in the book as well. So let me just check. No, so do these questions and again hand them in to me whenever. Okay, so now we're going to look at substituting. So here f of 6 it just means the value of x is 6. Okay, so in this case it's 9. Here minus 2, it's 5. Here this is the inverse function. Okay, so again you won't get one that's difficult. The inverse function of sine of 3x is a third sine to the minus 1, which states the inverse of sine 0.1, which in this case is 1.9, and 3x, if mx is 3x, then x minus 3, I change this value here, x to x minus 3, so instead of 3 times x, it becomes 3 times x minus 3, which is 3x minus 9. Okay, this is a very common question. This last one is a very common question in GCSE, IGCSE. So have a go at doing these ones. Again, these just hand them in sometime this week. Don't do them all at once. Spread them out. There's a lot of work here, and I don't want you to just spend all your time doing maths. Okay, so composite functions are a bit like what we just previously did here with this. So if 3x, I could say that x minus 3 was also a function, and what I've done is I do x minus 3 first, and then I do 3 times the result and answer, and that's pretty much what we're doing here. F g of x, basically I do g first, so I do the first letter that's nearest this x value. I do that function first, so I do 2 of x, and then I put 2 of x and I substitute it for this x here. So instead of it being 3x minus 1, it's 3 lots of 2x minus 1, okay, which is 6x minus 1. GG, which just means I do this twice, so I do 2x and then take this 2x and put it into the value of x. So it gets substituted there, and so that's just 4x. GF of x is I do f first this time and then put it into g, so I take this whole value and then put it into this value x here. Okay, so as you can see for here, fg of x is not always the same as gf of x. Okay, they can be very different, but they are different. And f and the inverse of f, so a function and its inverse, is always equal to x. It doesn't matter what value it is, what the function is. If you do it, and it doesn't matter which order you do it in. If you do the function then the inverse, or the inverse then the function, the value is always x. And you have to be able to know that. You have to know that. Okay, so here's some questions here. There's 9 questions to do of composite functions. And then this last sheet is at the back of the book on A10. So there is actually 6 questions in the book. I couldn't fit it all onto one PowerPoint slide. So work your way through. Any questions, like always, email me or WeChat me or message me somehow, and I will be able to do or go through any questions and answers in the same format that I'm doing here.